Welcome to the Anaheim Family YMCA's Game Changers podcast. I'm your host, Brent Finley, President and CEO of the Anaheim Family YMCA. My guest today is Lucy Santana, CEO of the Girls Inc. of Orange County. Lucy, welcome.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. How's your day going so far?
So far, so good, and this is the highlight of it.
Absolutely. Lucy, again, you've been the CEO of Girls Inc. for a number of years. Tell us about your pathway and your journey, and what's been maybe the most memorable moment so far in your leadership.
Wow, there's so many moments because actually 2024 was my 25th anniversary at Girls Inc. But I think a lot of the memories that really hold through in my heart and that really keep me going year after year, because I forget about how many years I've been here, is really the stories of the girls that we've served, especially when I get to see girls grow up through our programs. I mean, there's girls now that are in college that I got to meet when they were in elementary or middle school. And just seeing them thrive and succeed is what warms my heart and keeps me going every day.
Serving girls has been one of our newer initiatives, probably going back 2 years ago when we were really fortunate to land an LA 84 grant to basically bridge the play equity gap. So one of our important initiatives is getting many, many more girls involved in sport at the recreational level to whatever level they want to aspire to. So I think there's a lot of commonalities in our work and your work, and I think some things that we can maybe even looking to do together, down the road. Again, obviously focused on girls, having a better life and having more success in their journey. So Lucy, tell me about some upcoming projects or some of the initiatives that Girls Inc. is doing right now and will also carry over into the next year.
Yeah, so we just completed the first year of our new strategic plan. It's a 3-year plan, and it's pretty audacious. As I mentioned, we're on track to serve 9,000 girls this year, but we really are looking that by 2026, 27, we'll be serving closer to 13,000 girls. And we're going to do that through a couple of initiatives that we're really focused on, and that is our college-bound, college readiness, and career readiness programming. Right now, we're serving about 175 girls, and we are looking to double that program. And that means that more girls will have access to information about how to go and get a higher education, how to apply for college, how to access financial aid, scholarships, but really also providing them through that part of their journey, hand-holding, because a lot of them are first-generation college students, and so that has just not been a reality in their family. So that's one initiative that we have. The other is to really just continue to grow and be on more school campuses. That's how we facilitate our programs. We have partnerships with school districts, and so our goal is to maximize our participation and go into more Title I schools specifically.
Tell us a little bit about your journey and your pathway to becoming the CEO, and was this something you envisioned, and maybe you're in college and you're thinking about your future, kind of how that all kind of meshed together, and
Sure.
And look at you now.
Well, I see myself a lot in the girls that we serve. So in my family, I'm one of 7, and actually very proud to say that my first 14 years of life, I grew up in Anaheim, and so I got to go to elementary and middle school in Anaheim. But I really feel like it was really a journey of just discovering and getting to know who I was. My family was very supportive of making sure that education was front and center, but I think they were navigating through a lot of things that maybe the girls that we serve are now. Not understanding how do you apply for college, how do you afford it? Like, getting messages of like, we don't have money was like the first thing that I remember learning about in money. Not, that we had limited resources, I guess I should say, right? And I can imagine with, my mom being a stay-at-home mom and my dad being the only provider. But I feel like I always remembered everything that my mom and dad said. Stay in school, that will help you, that will give you an education. So I started really working right out of college in youth development, doing through Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec, but it was something that I never found myself working in because I was not a recreation major. But at the time, it was doing gang prevention programs, working with the kids that were hanging out in the parks, not doing the positive activities, and it really taught me more about why it's important to be in kids' lives early on. And so that just kind of started my journey into wanting to be in a youth development field. So my background was really program. I came into Girls Inc. as the director of programs, and I never imagined that I would take that leap into the CEO role 3 years later. But what I realize is, because it's so important to make sure that girls have mentors in their lives and that they're learning from others what journey they can take. I had great mentors when I was working as a director of programs, and people saying, what do you aspire to? And I had not really seen that beyond that. And so it took mentors, a very supportive former CEO, as well as board members that really saw the opportunity in building my leadership. So then it was like, why not? That's what I think it's like. It's exposure, it's conversations, and having people that you could really rely on and trust to say, this is where I'm feeling a little bit nervous. This is where I don't know. A lot of what we talk about with our girls growing up in our programs and learning about the world of work is the imposter syndrome. Women and girls tend to really experience that at higher rates. And when I look back at my own journey, I had a lot of that. Like, am I good enough? Am I going to be better than somebody else? And is it really like genuine that they're giving me an opportunity to do this job? So I really had to make sure that my mentors were building that positivity.
I think there's absolutely, it's empirical that having somebody in your court that believes in you, that says you can do it. You may not have all the answers, but just that encouragement. And I think of how lacking, so many kids that don't have that. Boys, girls, but where they have those key mentors, that's success story. And I think you do hear it all the time when people reflect back on their leadership and what got them started. They had people in their court that said, you can do this, that confidence, that wind behind their sails just couldn't be more critical. Yeah. What would you say is the most game-changing moment in your career so far? If you look back on 25 years with Girls Inc., is there one thing that stands out?
I think it's really making sure that we've always stayed up to date on what are the issues that girls are, listening to the girls about what they need to be successful. But I think also the game changer for me, and it really was only about 4.5 years ago, COVID. COVID was such a challenging time for so many of us. And I think that the game changing started happening when we were already looking at, is there an opportunity that we might do virtual programming at some point without COVID being in the picture? Because we wanted to reach more girls that we weren't in those communities. And then what COVID did was it just, like, the pivot had to happen very quickly. And given that we already had programs that we were thinking about, we quickly learned, and that's where we really expanded our college-bound programming. We were only serving maybe about 45 girls at the time, very intentionally. But when we went virtual, all of a sudden we had 100 girls on Zoom wanting to learn about how do I go to college and how do I get into college. And so that really was a game changer for us in terms of saying, we don't always want to be virtual, but this is an opportunity for us to grow. And now post-COVID and having come out of it more successful than we were in some of our programs, I think now it helped us to refocus on what was our key value to our girls and our community and our families. And I think the game changer has been is that we always focused on girls, but now we're also focusing on parents or caregivers, because we know it takes a whole family unit to be successful. And so I think that there's always game-changing moments every day, like those aha moments, and especially when you are able to talk to donors that believe in you and that they're willing to give you multi-year gifts or larger gifts, so that it's not just, I need to replace that $10,000 grant. It's like they believe in you because they've seen the success of the program. And so now
they become long-term investors.
We have these long-term investments that have really helped us to grow and to propel to the next level.
Do you see anything coming around the horizon? Do you see kind of like what's next for Girls Inc.? Is it something big? Is it small things? Is there something out there that you think will be the next, the next real important initiative to be a part of, outside of growing from 9,000 to say 13,000 girls served?
I think it's the world of work. It's changed a lot, but I think that girls and women still play a really critical part in the world of work, and really being able to help girls learn early on about their role in leadership and being able to gain positions of leadership, authority, and self-sufficiency is really important. For me, and I don't know that I can do this alone, but at least through our Girls Inc. network and through many people working together, but bridging that gap of a woman making 83 cents to every dollar a man makes. How can we bridge that gap? How can we bring that up to the dollar, And so I think for me, that's really where the game changing is going to happen. The more that we do that, and we're going to do that with a combination of community partners, right? Folks that are willing to give girls the opportunity to learn about workforce and be in the workplace. It's also going to be women and men that want to mentor young women in their workplace or give them feedback on this is how you can be here. And then also companies being able and willing to hire these young women out of college rather than
give them that proverbial shot.
Absolutely.
I think of a game-changing moment right now. The Seattle Kraken of the National Hockey League. They have the NHL's first female assistant coach.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean MLS maybe a couple years ago.
Yes.
Brought on I think 2 female referees. And just to watch them, and I've seen some games live and watching, one of these female referees navigate the center of the pitch and arguing back with these players who are griping about her particular calls of the match. It's amazing to see. I mean, I don't think I would have ever thought that would ever happen 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and it's everywhere, right? Like we have to make change in all of these pockets. It's not just in the world of business or work, but sports is also really important because women have been in sports for so long, and they're now getting their payback.
Yeah, I think certainly they're
yeah.
due. Sure.
Yeah.
Can you think of some very successful graduates that have come out of the program over the past 5 to 7 years, and are they local, and now are they starting to give back a little bit? Are you able to kind of still keep them somewhat ingrained in the program?
So I can share a very specific example. We recently had what we call our College Bound Luncheon, and we had over 20 of our alumni come back. So there were a combination of girls that are currently in college, some of them that have just recently graduated from college are now entering the workforce, and then we had those that are in their career fields. And so we do have girls that are coming back. Not only are they coming back to support Girls Inc. and volunteer, but they're also coming back to say, this is how Girls Inc. helped me. And now they're volunteering to mentor girls to write their college essays, to really, be able to be prepared for college and entrance. We also had one young woman who was our MC for the event, current SC student. And then our keynote speaker is also another USC student. But these women, even before they're graduating from college, are already they're mediating in family court. They're, doing things in the community that are making a difference. But we do have young women who are coming back and saying, I am now, in public policy, which is something that I always wanted to do. We have girls that are in law school. And, it's always difficult to stay in touch with them for a long period of time.
Sure, they get busy.
But
moving,
but in this last year, we really have invested in creating an alumni portal. So now what we're doing is we're having networking events and mixers as well as virtual career panels so that they stay connected to us and we're following them along their journey.
I feel like these are things that, and we're doing some very similar things in the YMCA, but it's almost like we're applying some of these college-like entities, mixer groups, the alumni groups, but it really feels like Girls Inc. has really turned a corner here.
We have.
And the hard work that's put in now, reaping the benefits of that. Again, where your phone call is ringing more than you're dialing. Talking to a business and bringing them into your workforce. Talk a little bit about businesses as you're recruiting businesses to have some aspect of your workforce development, your platform. Again, talking about specific roles and organizations. Is that getting easier? Are you getting more business say, hey, we want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
We've heard about what you're doing and we want to jump in.
A little bit of everything. So I think what we have seen is we have seen an increase in corporate giving, which is always, really welcomed. But we see that beyond just the check that we can get from a certain corporation or company. It really is around how can we engage your company further, whether it's the top brass or whether it's employees at every level, because we feel like whether they do a service project for us, whether they come in and volunteer and serve on a career panel, those are all different ways that are going to get the company's exposure. And some of them, and it's okay that they want exposure. They want the community to say, look, we're engaging in, community service and we're being, responsible for giving back. I think that's really important. I think that we have also seen partners that have really started maybe at $1,000, $1,500 donation and now increased to, 30, 40,000. But not only that, but it's like we have a conversation. I try to develop that relationship so that they can also be advisors to me because I'm not a business major, but running a nonprofit is running a business.
Oh,
and
sure is, absolutely.
and I think people sometimes don't know that or don't remember that, but it's like I still have to do the same thing that a business owner of a printing shop or an engineering
Verbatim.
firm, whatever. So I think that that's really important as well, is that we have been able to engage them in advisory roles as well. And then ultimately, I would say that more than half of my board, they are part of a major company or corporation that gets highly involved. And then what I think is great is that businesses that can, if they have a golf tournament and they select Girls Inc. as a beneficiary, that is a really amazing thing, because that brings additional monies into the organization.
Has that happened a few times?
It
recently?
has.
Oh,
It
that's
has.
wonderful.
So it's pretty cool, and but I think the other thing, the way that businesses can be engaged and involved, when I talk about our big game changers, is getting the world of work to understand how important it is to support women and help make them successful, is those internships that we do while they're in high school. We call it our Girls Meet the Workforce program. And it is, if a company agrees to be a host, they can host a girl for 20 hours in the month of July, and it really is around introducing them
So
to
summertime.
Summertime, so the girls have that time to be available, but they're juniors in high school getting real workforce experience. I love when I hear girls say like, "Oh, I was late and I got in trouble." I'm like, yes, punctuality is really important in a job, They also learn about dressing for success, right? Like in some companies, you can't wear your torn jeans. You have to dress nice. And I think being in California, the business casual can be very defined in very different ways. But I think, we teach them all those basics of like, this is where you need to be. But then once you start in a company, then you'll find out. But those are things that they're not really learning in school.
And they don't learn it from their families
And they
either.
don't learn
you
it
would
from
think
their
you would learn it,
families. Correct.
family, how to use the right
Yeah.
fork at the right time. But
No.
those soft skills, I mean, when you meet a young person and you immediately see they have those attributes, it's just they just didn't read a book or pick it up on YouTube. It's come into their
Right.
life through an intentional process, but it really stands out.
Yeah, and people don't think about that, but etiquette training is so important. Learning where's your drink, where's your bread, which fork do you use for what? Absolutely, we do that.
Don't you think that for some people, for some kids that are at point, they're coming out of college and now they're looking for that first professional job.
Yeah.
If they've been a graduate of Girls Inc., they have that down.
Yes.
That's not going to be something that they're not going to be, releasing to this person. They're speaking with you in an interview process. They're sending out a thank you note
Right.
the very next hour after the interview's done, versus their peer group who
Right.
hasn't had these experiences. They have a key advantage.
Oh, totally. And they understand, the importance of eye contact, a firm handshake. What is the integrity that you host, the ethical behavior that you want to have in a workplace as well, but also the power of thank you and getting involved and writing those handwritten notes. I know it seems so antiquated, but they still go a long way. And that's
In fact, they probably go further now.
I think
because
so,
it
because
takes
they're not
that
getting
extra
them.
effort.
Yeah,
So
for
You
sure.
can send a text or an email. How are you seeing females now, and maybe even moving forward 10 years? How do they look at balancing a family? They want to have a family. I have a young daughter
Yeah.
who I would like to see still working part-time as a nurse, and she has this nursing background, but I fear that she probably will not re-enter the workforce for the rest of her life. And I'm having,
Sure.
issues about that, because I think she was trained to be a healer. But is there a context that that Girls Inc. would share with young women about just that particular
Right.
subject matter?
Well, I think on a personal level, I'm a parent as well. I have a teenager. And so being a CEO, being a mom and a wife can certainly be challenging, and balancing that. And this is what I always tell young professionals. There is no such thing as work-life balance. You have to make choices and decisions, right? That are going to be important to you as a person, but then also how does that affect your family? And I think the way that we weave that into the programming when we're talking about workforce development and just work life is really around personal choices that you make, and the fact that most of these young women that we're serving they have to work. They don't have the option to not work. And so being that opportunity to learn about balance is, do you find a little bit of time for yourself? How do you do that? But also around, what are resources available so that your kids can be involved in other things as well? Like the value of getting your kids involved early on in community service and after school programs, whether it is a Girls Inc. program, a Girl Scouts program, a Y program. There are so many different options for them to use frankly, we know that a lot of parents use this as childcare, but at the end of the day, so much more than childcare comes
Yeah,
out
there's
of
other
this, right?
elements
There's
are
so
being
many
put
elements
passed
and
across, yeah.
behaviors. I think that's just the age-old question of like, how do women balance that? And I mean, we go as far as just talking about when you're picking a partner. You know, these are important conversations that you should be having, so that when you get to a point where you have a child, you are under the understanding of who's going to be responsible for what, or how do you divide household chores or activities or what have you. Who does, you know, my husband and I always joke around. I'm like, I'm flipping the coin. Who gets to take her to practice at 6:30 tomorrow morning? You know, it's like, you know, you can't do it all.
No,
and
you
so,
can't.
and you need, and whether it's a partner, whether it's your family, or just a circle of support systems, I think that's what we talk about. It's really around building support systems that are going to help you at every level of your life.
Can you think of the mentor that you had and how important, and I know we talked about that a little bit earlier, but, you know, focusing on you, how much did that mentor really have, you know, in terms of your life and your trajectory? And without that key mentor, would things maybe be a little bit different?
So I had one of my first mentors I had at my first job out of college. And she was like a no-nonsense woman, which I really now appreciate. But it was literally like when I would write a memo, it would come back with a red pen. But I didn't realize how much that taught me around professionalism and really doing things right. And it was about not being afraid. Like, don't be afraid. Like she would say, go to this community meeting. I'm like, I don't know anybody there. Well, you would get to know them. Yeah, right. And so I remember that. But then fast forward to before becoming the CEO, it really was around, you have the expertise, you have the experience, and maybe you have not been a CEO before. But I think a lot of it is just really that cheerleader, having that cheerleader that can really tell you that. And I also remember when I used to look at job descriptions of like, God, that's a really cool job, I would jot down all the things I didn't know. And so when I started, you know, talking to my mentor, I said, well, I don't know this, or I don't know that. And she's like, you can learn it. That just comes with experience. That, wing it, you know, fake it till you
get there when
make
you
it.
get there. Yeah.
You know, so I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves and we hinder our own opportunities. And so I think it's having somebody that can really be your cheerleader and say, nudging you, pushing you to say, you can do this.
Yeah, you'll do it. You'll do it well.
Yeah, because I think a good mentor is also going to tell you what you're not good at, or say you might want to take more time to think about this.
Expose those blind spots a little bit, because we have them, and even at times we think we're cruising down, you know, the super highway or the HOV lane, and we don't realize, there's elements out there that still will, you know, be good corrective, you know, changes. How can others out there in the community, how can they follow Girls Inc? How can they maybe even get involved?
Yeah.
What do they need to do?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Lucy Santana, or they can go on our website, and we have an opportunity to connect with us and learn about the different volunteer activities, events that we have going on, or different projects as well. So our website is probably one of the better ones, girlsinc-oc.org, or they can reach out to me as well.
Any upcoming events that you'd like to make mention of, or any special initiatives that are
I think,
preparing for?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking for businesses that would be willing to host a young woman in their business in the summer, but we are starting the recruitment now because we want to be able to place 150 girls this summer. So we need a lot, and companies can take more than one if they'd like. So we'll
take a couple.
Oh, right. Oh, I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Great. Well, Lucy, it's been a pleasure to have you on here on the YMCA Game Changers podcast. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. You are very inspiring, and I know I follow your LinkedIn. I probably say, way to go, good job, excellent.
Thank you for doing that, yes.
I'm really a fan of the organization, and getting to know you the last couple of years has been a pleasure as well. So thank you. Keep doing it. Keep up the great work, and you know, there's always more to do.
Absolutely. We're in it together, and thank you for having me here today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Our upcoming gala in March will be at the West Inn on March the 8th, and we look forward to another exciting gala, and we'll be releasing our honoree very shortly. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the YMCA and listening to our podcast here today.